When most people enter a conversation, they do it with one main goal: to win. To walk out feeling like they proved a point, crushed an argument, or convinced the other person that their way of thinking was superior. But here's the truth. You can win the argument and still lose the person. You can prove someone wrong. You can stack facts higher than theirs. You can corner them with logic. And yet, when the conversation is over, what you're left with is silence, distance, or resentment. Because in communication, winning isn't really winning. Connection is winning. Think about the last time you had a disagreement with someone you care about. Maybe it was with your spouse, a close friend, or even a coworker. You walked in ready to stand your ground. You wanted them to understand that your perspective was the right one. And maybe you succeeded. You proved your point. You made them acknowledge your logic, maybe even forced them to say, "Okay, fine, you're right." But did you really win? Or did you just shut down the possibility of a meaningful exchange? Did you walk away closer to that person or further apart? That gap you feel afterward, that's the cost of trying to win. Real communication isn't a battlefield. It's not about who comes out with more points scored. It's about who walks away feeling understood, respected, and safe enough to keep the conversation going. When you let go of the need to win, something amazing happens. Your tone changes, your body language softens. You listen differently, not to counter, not to defend, but to actually hear. And the other person feels it. They feel the shift. They sense that you're not trying to overpower them, you're trying to connect with them. And that makes them lean in, not push back. Now, some people will say, but if I don't try to win, doesn't that make me weak? Doesn't that mean I'm letting the other person walk all over me? Absolutely not. Letting go of winning doesn't mean giving up your voice. It means changing your goal. Your goal isn't to dominate, it's to connect. And here's the secret. When connection is your goal, influence naturally follows. People are far more likely to consider your perspective when they feel respected than when they feel cornered. Think of it like this. Imagine you're in quicksand. The harder you fight, the deeper you sink. Arguments work the same way. The more you push, the more the other person resists. But if you relax, if you shift your approach, if you stop trying to win and instead focus on understanding, the ground beneath you stops swallowing you up. The tension eases. The other person doesn't feel like they're being attacked, so they don't need to defend themselves as fiercely. That's the kind of space where real dialogue can happen. There's also a very practical reason to let go of winning. Our brains are wired for defense. The moment someone feels challenged, their natural instinct is to protect their position. That's why so many arguments end up in circles. Both people digging their heels in, neither willing to move an inch. But when you shift your intention from winning to connecting, you take away the threat. You give the other person permission to lower their guard. And when defenses come down, understanding goes up. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine two coworkers arguing about how to approach a project. One says, "This is the best way, I've done it before, and it works." The other fires back, "No, that won't work here. My idea is better." Back and forth they go, each trying to win and neither making progress. Now imagine one of them decides to step out of the winning mindset and says, "Okay, help me understand why this matters to you. What's the biggest thing you're worried about?" Suddenly, the energy changes. It's no longer about whose idea dominates. It's about why the idea matters. That shift opens a door, and in that space, collaboration happens. The irony of communication is that the harder you try to win, the more you lose. And the moment you stop trying to win, you actually start to succeed. Because success in communication isn't measured in victories, it's measured in connection. It's measured in whether the person you're talking to feels safe enough to open up again tomorrow. That's what lasts. That's what builds relationships, trust, and respect. So the next time you're in a conversation, pause and ask yourself, am I trying to win or am I trying to connect? Because the truth is, you can't always have both. But if you choose connection, you'll always walk away with something more valuable than a point scored. You'll walk away with a relationship strengthened. And that's a win worth chasing every single time. Most people think they're good listeners. They nod their heads, they make eye contact, they stay quiet long enough for the other person to finish speaking. But here's the uncomfortable truth: silence doesn't always mean listening. Very often, silence just means waiting for your turn to talk. It means your brain is already crafting a counterargument, already lining up the perfect response, already rehearsing what you'll say the second their lips stop moving. And when that happens, you may hear words, but you don't hear the person. You're not listening to understand, you're listening to reply. When you listen only to reply, you miss the heart of what's being said. Because words are just the surface. Beneath every statement is an emotion, a fear, a desire, or a need. Someone says, "You never help me around the house?" And the surface level reply might be, "That's not true. I just did the dishes yesterday." That's listening to reply. But if you listen to understand, you hear something deeper. You hear, "I'm overwhelmed. I feel alone in this. I need your support." And that deeper layer is where real connection lies. Listening to understand requires slowing down. It means resisting the urge to defend yourself. Resist the pull to jump in with advice. Resist the need to be quick with a solution. It means leaning in, not just with your ears, but with your heart. Because when people speak, what they're really searching for isn't always an answer. Sometimes they just want to be seen. Sometimes they just want to know that what they feel matters enough for someone else to sit in it with them, without rushing them out of it. Think about the last time you really felt understood. Maybe it was a tough day and you poured your heart out to a friend. They didn't cut you off. They didn't minimize your pain. They didn't jump straight to fixing it. They just listened. They nodded. They asked gentle questions. They reflected back what you said. And when you walked away, your situation might not have changed, but you did. You felt lighter. You felt respected. You felt like someone had finally heard not just your words, but your soul. That's the power of listening to understand. Now here's the secret: when you give that kind of listening to others, you gain more influence than you ever could by talking. Because people naturally lean toward those who make them feel valued. You don't have to push, your perspective is hard, because when someone feels heard, they become more open to hearing you. It's almost like a mirror. When you show them patience, they reflect patience back. When you show them respect, they reflect respect back. And when you show them understanding, they begin to consider your point of view with a softer heart. This isn't just about personal relationships. In business, in leadership, in negotiations, listening to understand is the difference between compliance and commitment. You can order someone to do something, and they'll comply. But if you listen to their concerns, if you show them you understand their obstacles and motivations, then when they take action, it's not just compliance, it's commitment. They're not doing it because they have to. They're doing it because they feel like they're part of the solution. And that shift changes everything. Of course, listening this way isn't easy. It requires humility. Because when you listen to understand, you're essentially saying, for this moment, your words matter more than mine. Your feelings are center stage. And that's not natural for most of us. We're wired to protect our own ego, to defend our stance, to make sure we're not misunderstood. But here's the paradox: the more you fight to be understood first, the less likely you are to be understood at all. The more you give understanding away, the more it comes back to you. A practical way to start listening to understand is to reflect before you respond. Instead of firing back with your opinion, repeat back what you think the other person meant. Say things like, "So what I'm hearing is you felt left out," or "It sounds like this situation has been really stressful for you." Those simple phrases show that you're not just passively hearing. You're actively trying to grasp their experience. And 9 times out of 10, the other person will soften. They'll nod. They'll feel the relief of not having to fight to be heard. So ask yourself, in your next conversation, am I listening to reload, or am I listening to receive? Am I preparing my next move, or am I opening myself to their truth? Because when you shift your listening, you shift the whole dynamic of the conversation. And the more you practice it, the more you'll notice that people open up to you in ways they never did before. They trust you more. They confide in you more. They come to you not because you always have the right answer, but because you give them the rare gift of feeling understood. At the end of the day, communication isn't about who spoke the most or who spoke the best. It's about who walked away feeling most understood. If you can be that person, the one who listens beyond words, the one who seeks to understand instead of just to reply, you'll find your conversations aren't just exchanges of information. They become bridges. Bridges that carry relationships further, build trust deeper, and create connections stronger than any argument ever could. Clarity is power. Too often, people think that to sound smart, they have to use big words, complex explanations, or long sentences. But the truth is, the smartest communicators are the ones who can take something complicated and make it sound simple. Because simple sticks. Simple gets remembered. Simple gets acted on. The harder it is to understand you, the easier it is for people to forget you. Think about the most powerful lines you've ever heard in your life. "I have a dream. Just do it. Time is money." None of those phrases are complicated. None of them use words that require a dictionary. But they cut through the noise because they are clear, direct, and memorable. The human brain loves simplicity. When your message is clear, it has a way of lodging itself inside someone's memory and staying there. On the other hand, when you fill your communication with jargon, with unnecessary details, with sentences that twist and turn like a maze, You don't impress people, you lose them. Their minds wander. They stop engaging. And here's the key. When people have to work too hard to understand you, they won't. They'll just check out. And when they check out, it doesn't matter how good your ideas are. They won't land. This happens in everyday conversations too. Let's say someone asks you how your day was, and instead of just saying, "It was stressful, I had a lot of deadlines," you dive into a 15-minute explanation of every little detail. By the time you're halfway through, they're nodding politely, but mentally, they're already somewhere else. A clear, simple answer would have gotten your point across and maybe even invited a more meaningful follow-up question. Simplicity doesn't mean leaving out depth. It means creating space for depth to actually be received. Simple language also shows respect. It shows that you care enough about the other person to make your message easy for them to understand. Imagine a doctor explaining a diagnosis. They could use medical jargon and impress themselves, but leave the patient confused and anxious. Or they could explain it in everyday words, making the patient feel informed and empowered. Which doctor would you trust more? Which one would you want to come back to? That's the difference clarity makes. The same applies to leadership. The best leaders aren't the ones who deliver long, complicated speeches full of buzzwords. They're the ones who can state a vision so clearly that everyone in the room not only understands it, but feels it, remembers it, and carries it forward. People don't follow confusion. They follow clarity. They follow the person who can point in a direction and say, "This is where we're going," in a way that makes sense to everyone. Now, here's where many people get stuck. They think simplifying their words will make them sound less intelligent. But the opposite is true. Anyone can make something sound complicated. It takes true mastery to make something simple. Einstein once said, "If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough." That's not just about science, it's about life. If you want people to remember your message, if you want them to connect with it, you have to strip away the clutter and get to the heart of it. Practical tip before you speak, ask yourself, what's the one thing I really want them to take away? Not 5 things, not 10 things, one thing. Then build your words around that. When you focus on the essence of what you want to say, you naturally cut out the extra noise. And the result is sharper, stronger communication. Another way to simplify is to use stories. Stories do the heavy lifting for you. You don't have to explain every detail, because the story paints the picture. It gives your audience something to see, something to feel, something to remember. That's why some of the greatest communicators, whether teachers, pastors, CEOs, or parents, rely on stories. Stories translate complexity into something simple and human. Think about it like this: communication is like building a bridge. If your bridge is over-designed, filled with extra beams and wires and layers, it might look impressive, but it will confuse the people trying to cross it. They'll hesitate. They'll wonder if it's safe. But if your bridge is simple, clear, and direct, people will trust it. They'll step on it without hesitation. Your words are the bridge. The clearer you make it, the easier it is for people to cross from not knowing to knowing, from misunderstanding to understanding, from doubt to confidence. At the end of the day, clarity is kindness. When you speak simply, you honor people's time, you respect their attention, and you give your message a chance to live beyond the moment. People won't remember every word you said, but they'll remember how easy it was to get it. And when they remember, they repeat it. And when they repeat it, your message spreads farther than you could ever push it on your own. So don't confuse complexity with intelligence. Don't measure your words by how clever they sound, but by how clearly they land. Because when your words are simple, your message is strong. And when your message is strong, your communication doesn't just inform, it transforms. When people speak, they're not just giving you information. They're giving you a piece of how they feel in that moment. And if you want to connect deeply, you can't just respond to the words, you have to respond to the emotions underneath them. Because words may tell you the story, but emotions tell you the truth. Imagine someone comes home after a long day, slams their bag on the table, and says, "Work was a nightmare." Now, if you only respond to the words, you might say, "Yeah, work is tough, but at least it's Friday." That's logical, it's factual, but it doesn't touch the heart of what they're really sharing. If you listen with emotion, you'd hear the exhaustion, the frustration, maybe even the disappointment hiding behind that sentence. And if you respond to that, you might say, "Whoa, it sounds like today really drained you. You must feel exhausted." That kind of response doesn't solve their problem, but it does something more important. It makes them feel seen. When people feel seen, their walls come down, their guard softens. Because nothing disarms defensiveness faster than genuine empathy. You don't have to fix everything. You don't have to have the perfect answer. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply acknowledge the emotion in front of you. That single act says, I'm with you. I get it. You're not alone. And that builds more connection than any clever comeback ever could. Think about children. A child trips, scrapes their knee, and bursts into tears. If you respond only with words, you might say, you're fine. Get up. It's not a big deal. Technically, you're right. It's a small scrape, they'll be okay, but emotionally, you've just dismissed their experience. Now imagine instead you kneel down and say, that must have hurt, huh? I can see you're scared. Let's clean it up together. In that moment, the child feels validated. They feel comforted. And that reassurance becomes the foundation of trust. Adults are no different. We may hide it better, but deep down, we still crave that same acknowledgement. Matching emotion also means paying attention to tone, body language, and the pauses between words. Someone may say, I'm fine, but if their voice cracks, if their shoulders slump, if their eyes avoid yours, they're not fine. Listening beyond the words means noticing the signals that emotion is trying to send. And when you respond to those signals, you let the other person know that you're tuned in, that you care enough to hear what they didn't even say out loud. This skill changes relationships. In marriages, it's often the difference between growing apart and growing together. In friendships, it's the glue that keeps you close through hard seasons. In the workplace, it's what separates leaders people obey from leaders people believe in. A manager who only listens to words will hear, I'm handling it, and think everything's fine. But a manager who listens to emotions will hear the stress in the voice, the hesitation in the tone, and will step in to support before burnout sets in. That's not just good communication, that's good leadership. And here's the surprising thing, when you start matching emotion, conversations get shorter but deeper, because people don't have to repeat themselves to feel understood. They don't have to circle around the same point, raising their voice, getting more frustrated, just to prove they're not okay. You cut through all of that by meeting them where they are emotionally, not just intellectually. That moment of recognition is like opening a pressure valve. The tension releases, and what could have been an argument often becomes an honest exchange. Now, this doesn't mean you have to mirror every emotion exactly. If someone's yelling in anger, you don't need to yell back. Matching emotion isn't about copying, it's about acknowledging. You can stay calm while still saying, I can see how angry this situation has made you. That way, you validate without escalating. You connect without losing control of yourself. And that balance is what turns conflict into conversation. At its core, this principle is about empathy. Empathy is the bridge between what someone says and what they feel. When you walk across that bridge, you bring them with you. You let them know that their emotions matter, that they don't have to fight for recognition, that they're not invisible. And the irony is, once people feel their emotions are safe with you, they become more willing to hear your perspective. Understanding always opens the door to being understood. So the next time someone speaks to you, don't just listen for the facts. Listen for the feeling. Don't just answer the sentence. Answer the soul. Because people may forget the exact words you used, but they will never forget how deeply you understood them. And when you master that, your communication won't just be heard, it will be felt. One of the simplest but most powerful tools you can use in any conversation is the pause. Just a few seconds of silence before you respond can completely change the direction of a discussion. Most people underestimate it because it feels so small, so ordinary, almost too easy. But the truth is that pause is where wisdom lives. That pause is where respect shows. That pause is where good communication is born. Think about the last time you were in an argument. Emotions were running high, words were flying fast, and before you could even think, something sharp or defensive flew out of your mouth. In that moment, it felt right. It felt like you were protecting yourself. But afterwards, you probably replayed it in your head and thought, I wish I hadn't said that. I wish I'd handled it differently. That regret almost always comes from reacting instead of responding. A pause gives you the space to respond. The pause is not weakness. It's not you hesitating or losing ground. It's actually the opposite. It's you taking control. Because when you pause, you're reminding yourself and the other person that you're not just a product of emotion. You're not a machine that spits out the first thought that comes up. You're a human being capable of choosing how you show up. And that choice in communication is everything. The beauty of the pause is that it doesn't just help you, it helps the other person too. When you pause, you lower the temperature in the room. You signal that you're not here to fight fire with fire. You show them you're listening, that you're considering what they said, that you're giving weight to their words. And people can feel that. They can feel the difference between someone who fires back out of impulse and someone who takes a breath, thinks, and replies with intention. Sometimes, the pause only needs to be a heartbeat long. You hear something, you feel that surge of defensiveness, that urge to strike back, and you catch yourself. You breathe. You let that instant of silence pass through you. And in that silence, your mind clears just enough to stop the reaction and choose a better response. That 1 second can save you from saying something that could take hours, days, or even years to repair. And it's not just in conflict where the pause matters. It also matters in everyday conversations. Someone shares a story, and instead of rushing to fill the silence with your own story, you let the moment breathe. That pause gives them permission to keep going, to share more, to feel truly heard. Silence can be uncomfortable, but inside that discomfort is where trust grows. Because when you don't rush to fill every gap, you show that the other person's voice is strong enough to stand on its own. The pause is also a tool for clarity. Sometimes, when you're about to explain something, your first words aren't your best words. Taking a short pause before you speak gives your brain time to organize, to cut out the clutter, to sharpen the message. That way, what you say doesn't just come out, it lands. The pause is like the comma in a powerful sentence. It doesn't take away meaning, it adds it. It makes the message stronger. Some people are afraid of pausing because they think it makes them look unsure. But here's the truth. The most confident communicators use silence intentionally. Watch great speakers. They don't rush. They let their words breathe. They pause to let the weight of a sentence sink in. They pause to make sure their message hits. That's not weakness, that's mastery. In relationships, the pause can be the difference between escalation and resolution. Imagine your partner says something hurtful in the heat of the moment. Your instinct is to snap back to defend yourself. But if you pause, you give yourself the space to ask, is this really what I want to say? Will this help us, or will it hurt us? That second of reflection can redirect the whole conversation. Instead of two people throwing words like weapons, you create a space where healing is possible. So much damage in communication doesn't come from bad intentions. It comes from speed. We react too fast, we speak too soon, we push words out before they're ready. The pause slows you down. It brings intention back into the room. And intention is what separates communication that divides from communication that builds. At the end of the day, the pause is your power button. It's your reset. It's your reminder that you are not just a reactor, you are a responder. And the people who know how to respond, not react, are the ones who create trust, respect, and lasting impact. So the next time you feel that rush to fire back, choose the pause. Because silence, used wisely, speaks louder than any reaction ever could. Respect is the foundation of every meaningful interaction. Without it, words may be heard, but they will never be felt. Too often, communication breaks down because people let their ego take the driver's seat. Ego wants to win. Ego wants to be right. Ego wants the last word. But respect wants something different. Respect wants to understand. Respect wants to connect. Respect wants to build, not break. And when you lead your conversations with respect instead of ego, you instantly transform not only how people hear you, but also how they remember you. Think about the last time someone tried to argue with you from a place of ego. Maybe they raised their voice, cut you off, or tried to prove how much smarter or stronger they were. Even if they made a valid point, you probably weren't interested in listening, because ego pushes people away. It builds walls. It forces the conversation into a competition instead of a collaboration. And the truth is, nobody likes to feel like they're in a battle when all they wanted was to be understood. Now picture the opposite, a person who approaches you with respect. They don't just wait for their turn to speak, they actually listen. They don't interrupt, they invite. They don't need to prove they're better, they want to prove they care. Even if you disagree with them, you can feel the difference. Respect makes you more open. It lowers your defenses. It creates a safe space where both sides can speak honestly. That's the kind of conversation that lasts. Leading with respect doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. It doesn't mean you have to agree with everything they say. Respect is not weakness. It's strength under control. It's saying, I can stand firm in what I believe while still honoring your right to believe differently. That balance is what keeps communication healthy. Because the goal is not to win the moment, it's to win the relationship. When you communicate with respect, you give people dignity. You remind them they matter. And here's the powerful part, people rarely forget how you made them feel in conversation. Long after the words fade, the tone you used, the patience you showed, the respect you gave, that's what sticks. That's what shapes your reputation. And if people know you as someone who always brings respect to the table, they'll trust you, follow you, and value your voice more than someone who simply tries to dominate. Respect also shows up in the small things. The way you listen without checking your phone. The way you let someone finish their thought before jumping in. The way you acknowledge their feelings, even if you don't share them. The way you use kind words when sharp words would have been easier. Every one of those choices says something. It says, you matter enough for me to slow down and treat you well. And in a world where everyone is rushing to be heard, respect is the rare gift that makes you unforgettable. Ego, on the other hand, is never satisfied. Ego always wants more. More recognition, more praise, more control. But when you lead with respect, you don't need to fight for attention. People naturally give it to you, because respect earns what ego demands. Respect attracts what ego chases. Respect creates loyalty where ego only creates resistance. In leadership, this principle is magnified. A boss who leads with ego might get compliance, but a leader who leads with respect gets commitment. Compliance fades the moment fear is gone. Commitment lasts because it's built on trust, and trust is always born from respect. The same is true in families, in friendships, in communities. Respect sustains what ego destroys. The challenge is that in heated moments, our ego loves to step in. It whispers, don't let them talk to you like that. Don't back down, don't lose. But what ego doesn't tell you is that winning the moment often means losing the relationship. Respect, however, plays the long game. It says, I don't need to crush you to be heard. I don't need to prove I'm right at the expense of connection. That's the kind of strength people admire, even if they don't agree with you. Leading with respect doesn't just change the way others see you. It changes the way you see yourself. You begin to carry yourself differently. You gain a quiet confidence, the kind that doesn't need applause or validation. Because when you know you've shown respect, you've already won. No matter the outcome of the conversation, you've chosen dignity over dominance, connection over competition. And that choice leaves an impression far deeper than any sharp remark ever could. So the next time you're about to step into a conversation, whether it's a debate, a disagreement, or a daily chat, ask yourself one simple question. Do I want to lead with ego, or do I want to lead with respect? Choose respect every time, because ego might make you feel powerful in the moment, but respect makes you powerful for a lifetime. At the end of the day, communication is not about winning, it's about connecting. It's not about proving who's smarter, louder, or quicker. It's about building trust, understanding, and respect in every exchange. When you stop chasing victory and start chasing connection, everything changes. You've learned that improving your communication doesn't require you to master tricks or memorize clever lines. It requires presence. It requires empathy. It requires the courage to slow down, to listen deeper, to meet people where they are instead of dragging them where you want them to be. If you can choose to listen without planning your reply, you'll hear more than just words. You'll hear meaning. If you can validate instead of dismiss, you'll make people feel seen. If you can match their emotions instead of just their sentences, you'll create trust. If you can pause before you react, you'll save yourself from regret and open the door to real solutions. And if you can lead with respect instead of ego, you won't just win conversations, you'll win relationships that last. Great communication is not about perfection. You will still make mistakes. You will still say things you wish you could take back. But if you carry these principles, those mistakes won't define you. Your growth will. People don't remember the slip-ups nearly as much as they remember the consistency of how you show up. And showing up with respect, patience, and empathy will always outweigh one clumsy sentence. So the next time you find yourself in a conversation, whether it's with a friend, a partner, a coworker, or even a stranger, remember this: you don't have to win. You just have to connect. Because real communication isn't about being impressive, it's about being human. And when you choose to communicate with empathy and respect, you'll discover that you don't just improve conversations, you improve lives, starting with your own.